Hey friends. I I had an insight show up today from the most unexpected source, my meditation app. Who knew that these messages could come through from weird places like that? I use a meditation app called Insight Timer. Been using it for years, and it's kind of amazing. They've gotten a little annoying recently because now they have a not free version and they keep trying to get you to buy the other version. And I'm like, but I've always liked the free version, and I liked that it was free, and I liked when I wasn't getting constant pop-ups that asked me to buy the new one. But it still does all the same things that the old one did. So it's not any worse. It's just a little more annoying. Anybody from Insight Timer, if you're listening, maybe you could just make it an option that like exists in your account info, but not something that you're constantly being asked to do. Anyway, that is where my insight for the day came from. And it was funny again because so like whenever you open the app, if it's been closed for a couple of hours, it gives you the quote of the day. It like shows up on your screen. Whoa, you get the quote. You get to read it for a few seconds before it drifts away, and just as you're thinking about it, it fades and you're into the app. And today the quote was by somebody I don't even remember, but it was a woman who was quoted as saying, mindfulness is noticing the way we cling to pleasant experiences and push away unpleasant ones. And I immediately, because I've had a day or two where I've been focusing on some music that I'm playing in an upcoming recital, I immediately related this to music. And, I've got an entire course called the Mindful Piano. What is it called? The Mindful Piano Intensive. And I use mindfulness in a number of different ways in that course. I approach it from a number of different angles. I apply it to all sorts of different aspects of our playing. But I thought this quote, this little nugget of insight is actually really key, and it's something that I'm sure that I touch on this in the course, and I know that I've touched on this in my teaching, but it's something that's worth encapsulating as a banner headline for any sort of practice. Mindfulness is the process of noticing that we are going to cling to pleasant experiences and repel unpleasant experiences. Well, what does that mean when you're sitting at the piano practicing a piece that you don't know? It means that the parts that get easy first are going to be the ones, those are going to be your pleasant experiences, and those are going to be the ones that you're going to want to play more. And the parts that are hard are going to be your unpleasant experiences, because there's going to be discomfort, there's going to be disorientation, confusion, not quite getting it. Those are going to be the ones that you're going to not want to practice as much. Well, guess what kind of a practice strategy that works out to be? Let me practice the things that become easier first and avoid the things that are hard from the beginning. What? Obviously, that's no way to practice. We know this, and on some level, that's kind of it amounts to a pretty rudimentary understanding of what practice is all about. But I actually think, I've noticed this at play in my own practicing over the last couple of days. There was a period, I think yesterday, or maybe the day before yesterday, where I was doing a little work. I think it was yesterday. I was doing a little work, and I had a moment of wanting to repel the whole thing. Like, I talked about this in my previous couple of posts. My whole body was like, I don't want to do this. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. And it was just that I didn't really understand it, and I couldn't really, my mind couldn't get inside of it fully. And I just, luckily I caught it. I was like, okay, hold on. Let me, I think that might actually be part of the problem. Let me go right for a couple of these little sections, just like one bar, whatever it is, it's bugging me, that's not feeling right, and go in there and really look. And I did that, and before I knew it, I had some real, I mean, I mentioned this yesterday. In one particular case, a part that had felt like one of the harder parts and parts I wanted to avoid, all of a sudden became one of my favorite parts of the piece. It became something that was not only easy to play, but just I really felt like it was really enjoyable. And throughout the piece now, I feel like I have the ability now to go to detect, use my own discomfort as a kind of metal detector, like going around, like trying to find the spots that aren't quite working yet. As soon as I become uncomfortable, this is something I talk about in Qigong too. We don't want to wait until there's pain before we start working towards health. So Qigong, the process of becoming incredibly conscious of our body, really just letting our awareness settle into every aspect of our body, things start to show up that might not be, there might be no discomfort there, no noticeable discomfort there during a normal day. But letting our awareness really seep into the body and letting it find those places where there is tension, imbalance, whatever there might be in the body, will give us the chance to notice them. And just by noticing them, they begin to heal. And especially if we know how to work with them physically, energetically, possibly in some sort of herbal or medicinal capacity, all of a sudden we've taken charge of the healing process in a way that doesn't require us to get an affliction before we can work towards health. Same thing with this. Now, I don't have to make a mistake in a part of the piece in order for me to go, wait a minute, something's not right there. That's uncomfortable. Why is it uncomfortable? I think I played it right, or right-ish, but what was going on? You know, did I use an awkward fingering? Was I just not fully clear on what's happening? Right? Like I sort of like use my own discomfort as a way to diagnose where my attention needs to go. It's almost the opposite of the tendency, you know, that's kind of encapsulated in this quote. Mindfulness is the noticing. Mindfulness is noticing how we're going to cling to the pleasant and repel the unpleasant. Well, what we really, in terms of a practice, what we really need to do is we almost need to do the opposite. We need to claw back the parts that we're repelling and say, no, you are where my attention wants to go. You, the things that are pleasant and going great, I love you. Sit right here while I make the rest of this whole thing hang together. We really kind of have to almost flip the polarity on our own tendencies in that way. And it totally can be done. It absolutely can be done. And as I was then doing my Qigong afterwards and kind of reflecting on this quote, I was thinking about, you know, that's one thing that I know that I've been trying to impose, might be strong, but trying to impart this to Annalise as a way of approaching her practice on violin, because she definitely wants those pleasant experiences and does not want the unpleasant ones. And she's a 5-year-old, right? Like that's what's normal for a 5-year-old. And you don't want to do too, I don't want to be too taskmastery about forcing us to only pay attention to the things that aren't working and never letting us really kind of play in the light stuff. It gives me a helpful shorthand, like mental shorthand for where we're putting our focus in terms of the practice. But it made me realize that is one of the things that you're teaching a young person. Like that's something the young person has to learn. Like if they want to practice something that's going to take time and years to learn, this is how you do it. You have to find a way to be okay with those experiences that are kind of unpleasant. Unpleasantness it becomes a real partner in this, because a challenge, something that's difficult, something that takes effort, is going to be something that inherently involves a little bit of discomfort. You're going to be reaching beyond your comfort zone. You're going to be seeking out problems that you don't yet know how to solve. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what deepening a practice is all about. And you kind of have to make friends with that, and then make friends with discomfort being part of us. Whether it's not, and I'm not saying physical discomfort, but like even just mental discomfort, the discomfort of not quite knowing how to do something. We got to make friends with that, because it's at the core of learning. And yeah, that's what I got today. My insight timer showed up and gave me the perfect insight for the day. I'd be curious if anybody wants to comment how this might show up in your life. Like where in your life you might notice this. Because I honestly don't know if it's something we ever get over. I don't know if we even if I imagine like an enlightened guru, this wouldn't their mind wouldn't necessarily do this any differently. They would just be so conscious of everything that they would always know like where they would be allocating their energy and attention expertly, because they would have total full awareness. But the mind is still the mind. The mind wants what it wants. It's like a computer. So in other words, I think everyone at every phase of development and in every field of development goes through some of this, and I'd be curious to hear where this might show up for you. Feel free to leave a comment. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.